before. I can't tell you what I ate that night, but that night changed my life. Mm-hmm. That hospitality, I was like, I'm going to come back and work for this man. This man.
Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, Andre Natera. My guest is Toby Archibald, the New Zealand-born chef of Quarter Acre in Dallas, who traveled and worked in great kitchens all over the world before landing in Texas. His take, you can't learn to cook from YouTube. We get into how you actually learn technique, French and Italian style cured meats, and the art of charcuterie. Stay tuned. It's 2016.
Yeah.
We're in Dallas. We're doing a Bocuse d'Or dinner. So Matthew Peters is getting ready to go compete in the Bocuse d'Or.
Yeah.
And he has a pop-up dinner through Mentor BKB at Kent's house. Kent Rathbun, for people who don't know, legendary Dallas chef. Yeah. And I'm there, you're there. Who else is there? Greg Backstrom.
Yeah. Travis
Swickard.
There was a bunch of really wealthy Dallasites there.
There was. And so we met. And I remember it was a good time. So we're doing a multi-course dinner. Chef from French Laundry's there. Chefs from New York, chefs from Danielle. I'm there. We're getting ready to send Matt off to the Bocuse d'Or, but that's not the story.
No.
The story is when we're done, we have a big fucking tin of caviar.
Yeah.
A huge tin.
It was massive. It was like the size of the stand.
It was like a kilo tin, right?
Yeah, it was huge.
It was a kilo tin.
Exorbitant.
And some beef tartare.
Yeah. And Triscuits.
And Triscuits. And that was the snack.
We monstered it.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And we met way back then. It was a good night. Afterwards, you remember we went to a taco shop?
Yeah, it was badass. It was cool. Like the Triscuit thing was hilarious because you've got all these really talented people that know how to put caviar on very bougie, luxurious things, right? And we're all just going, "Oh, I'm hungry," and that's just spooning it up. I had no business being there either, right? Like I had just moved to Dallas. I saw it on Travis's Instagram. He's like, "I'm coming to Dallas." I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm cooking at Kent Rathbun's house." Like, "Can I come?" He's like, "Sure." And then I walked in. I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna. This is badass, you know." And it was awesome. Kent's house is amazing. But afterwards, we're sitting there, and we're in his wine room.
That's right, beautiful wine room.
And he's pulling out bottles of bourbon that have got his name on them because he's a brand ambassador, and we're all. It's late. We've had a great night, big success, raised lots of money for Matt, and then he went on and killed it, which is awesome. And Kent's sitting there, and he's getting all fatherly figure on it, and it was just really special. And I was like, "What's like one piece of advice?" And he just looked straight at us. He said, "Pay for a lawyer." And I had only been in Dallas a little while. You'd been there a while already, and even I had already heard the stories of how it all just went really south for him and his name, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, no matter what someone says, pay the money, get a lawyer that's in your corner, not the landlord's corner, not your partner's corner, not the broker's corner, that's looking at these contracts for you. You're paying that lawyer. And that was really important. And he said, because he said, investors can... talent will always find investors, but investors can't always find the right talent. And that key word there is the right talent, because there's a bunch of people out there that have great ideas, great concepts, and investors are like, this is awesome. And it's like, wait, why did you put it on that random street in that random part of town and you're charging that and no one that wants to eat that is living in that area, right? But finding the right investors for your concept is key, and then making sure that when everyone signs that agreement, it's all buttoned up so that you know where you stand. If it starts getting a bit rocky, you've got a contract that says it's going to be okay. If it starts doing really, really well, you've got a contract that says you're also going to do really okay. And that was cool. And then we just piled into his Porsche and went and got tacos.
Yeah, it was like 2 a.m. tacos on Hines at a gas station, right?
He's like, I got this spot. And we're like, okay. And it was a gas station. It was dodgy. Yeah.
It was a gas station. You got the back of the car. All these Michelin caliber chefs eating tacos at 2 a.m. on Hines.
Was squished in the back.
That's
She's
right.
The little one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Yeah, it was fun. And then you reached out to me a couple of times, but it was just sort of, It was bizarre. And then I reached out to you about this podcast a buddy of mine had put me onto. And I was like, hey, chef, this is awesome. You're doing a great job. I don't think we've met. And you're like, yeah, we've met.
Yeah. Funny story, huh? Full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. It's good to reconnect.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking a little bit, but for people that don't know, how did you end up in Dallas? And why did you end up in Dallas?
Oh, see.
And do you like it?
She's from Dallas.
Yeah, there you go. This is usually the reason. Right?
Yeah. I've done a lot of traveling. I started in New Zealand and just I'm from that's the immediate one. I get up in front of people and say, first things first, I'm from New Zealand. That's where the accent comes from. And then I'm like, and I'm here because the next question is, why are you here?
Can I ask you a question unrelated to culinary? But do you guys get offended if people think you're from Australia?
I used to.
Yeah.
But nah, I get it now. And after traveling so much, Australians are just like us. It's like a big little brother relationship. Like if I'm out, especially when I was living in London or if I was traveling to France or whatever, and you're backpacking and you're out at a bar, there could be 1,000 people in a big bar or a club, and you'll find the one Australian in the room. You won't know them, and you'll just have a blast because our cultures are so similar. So I totally get it. Our accents are really different though, and you get an Australian from WA or from up in like Queensland, and their accent is, it's abrasive, But then you get someone from really, really south in New Zealand, also can be a little abrasive. So I get it. Yeah, we're from a similar place, but they're very different.
I know nothing about New Zealand other than The Lord of the Rings was filmed there.
Yeah. Get that a lot.
Right? That's probably like the confusion for being Australian or, hey, do you like The Lord of the Rings? But is New Zealand very similar in Australia in terms of the wildlife? Like in Australia, like there's crocodiles, snakes,
totally
and everything's
different.
going to fucking
We
kill
come
you.
from paradise. They come from paradise where everything's a trap.
Okay, fair enough.
There is no poisonous animals in New Zealand. There's one spider, but no one ever sees it. There's no sharks. There's no crocodiles. There's no alligators. There's no like freaking snakes that just can go faster than you across ground. None of that. It's just beautiful. It's the water's a bit colder, but it's paradise, man. You don't realize that until you travel.
How old were you when you left?
I was 23.
Yeah?
Yeah, actually, I was 23, 2006.
Where'd you go?
So I always wanted to travel. That was my big thing. That's actually why I got into chefing. I did maths at school. We put an S on the end of math, by the way, maths. And I was really good at it. And then by my last year of high school, I was like, this is kind of boring. And everything had been set up to go towards engineering at that point. I was like, I'm good at maths. This is going to be great. And then I sort of had to have a big question mark, like what is the plan? And so I realized I enjoyed cooking. I loved eating. I have a twin sister. She's like short, skinny, and pretty. I was chubby and not, and I just loved to eat. And one day I said to my mom, I was like, I like cooking. I really like cooking. And I really want to travel. And then I looked into it, and all of that worked out perfectly. So did culinary school. I worked at some amazing restaurants in New Zealand. One of which was with a really good, he's now a very good friend of mine, but he was a mentor. His name's Mike Van Delzen. I worked for this chef called Simon Wright, who is in the White Heat book next to Marco Pierre White and Gordon Ramsay, getting his ass kicked every night. And by the time I left New Zealand, I was like, my head chef, Mike Van Delzen, he said, you got to go to London, get the Michelin guide. This is one of those moments that I remember, and I've told this story so many times. Get the Michelin guide. This is pre-Instagram and social media. You had to go find an internet cafe. Get the Michelin guide. Start at the top with the 3 stars. Look online. See if you like the menu. If you like the menu, email them your resume and then go down. I spent a whole day doing that to every restaurant and the Michelin guide for London. And I might have heard back from like 20 places, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a lot actually.
And
how old are you at that time?
I was still 23.
You're still 23.
And I went and staged, and I staged at a couple. One was, I won't name it, but I was like, I got on the bus on the way home because the tubes had finished. They run these night buses because the tubes aren't 24 hours. And I cried. I was like, fuck, what have I done? Like, this is horrible. Like, it was a basement kitchen, and I'm 6'2", and they were just like, hey, can you get something out of the dry stores? And the dry stores has an entrance where it's like got a 5-foot door on it. And all day And then I realized they were laughing at me because like the 6'2" dudes like got to hunch down to get into the dry stores. But then the next one I staged at, I walked in, big beautiful kitchen. Everyone was working hard. They were making food I had never seen before. It was light. It wasn't super quiet, but it wasn't a noisy kitchen. The chef was very polite, a really short little French guy. 3 sous chefs like were just running around killing it. I was like, this is cool. The food was super pretty, and it was just this dance. And I was like, ooh, I could get down with this. And then they offered me a job, and that was the greenhouse in London. And I worked there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Michelin star. By the time I left, I was a sous chef, and changed my life.
Yeah.
Like,
What were some of the things you were learning at that restaurant?
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Like we were making all the stocks. It was actually really interesting because it wasn't heavy French food. He had worked under Michel Bras, so he was that sort of much lighter, more modern French direction. But then one of the sous chefs was a Ducasse guy. One of the other sous chefs was like this amazing French 3-star Michelin guy. And so we had all of this classic technique coming into some of the specials from the sous chefs, but they would then engage it, and my head chef would like rein it back in and be like, what if we just added like a little bit of soy to that? And what if we just added a little bit, we're going to put cilantro stem on top of the foie gras with some candied ginger, and everyone's like, what? Then you eat it. It was just amazing. So I learned there how to base everything. I got in early. I'm a keener, right? I'm like, well, if I'm only getting paid X amount a week, I might as well just be there as often as I can. And I was in there early. The sous chefs, why are you here? This is my quiet time. I'm like, I'm not going to ask any questions. But within a couple of weeks, he's showing me how to make the sauces, and he's showing me how to make the stocks. And suddenly I'm getting moved up the kitchen because I know what he's talking about when he's asking for things. And I worked on the pastry section because I volunteered when they were short-staffed. And in New Zealand, the kitchens are so small, you kind of learn pastry as well. So I learned a bunch of that. But the main thing to take away from was the language barrier was massive. So the only way people could really teach was to show. Mm-hmm. And that was huge, like a huge game change for me. It's like, I don't know what you're saying, but I know what it tastes like over here. How do we get from here to here? Mm-hmm. And so you had to learn, not just get taught technique, you had to learn it by watching the technique. Mm-hmm. From, this sauce has taken a week for us to get here, right? And that hadn't existed up in my career up until that point. So,
do you think we've lost a little bit of how we learn things because now everything's so quick? You could watch a YouTube video or a TikTok, and you say, "Okay, let me show you how to make the best bordelaise." Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
1.5 minutes later, you know how to make a bordelaise, and then you're making it. But there's a lot that you don't understand in that 1.5 minutes. You know how to cook. That's not the problem. The problem is getting your team to do what you want, when you want it. That's leadership. My book, Culinary Leadership Fundamentals, breaks down exactly how to run a kitchen without losing your mind. Stop yelling, start leading. Get the book at chefspsa.com.
For sure. There really is. And, I've got young guys in my kitchen. I love teaching. That's a big part of what I love doing. Because it's just watching someone going from entry-level kitchen at Quarter Acre, and they go, I don't know what you're doing here. And then a few months later, they're showing other people what you showed them. That's really special. But we've lost that because we had to, like the economy, and this is not just in the last 3 years. This is just over the last 2 decades. Kitchens have had to get smaller because the prices can't go up at the same speed in the dining room that they are in the back of house. Mm-hmm. And it's there's more restaurants getting opened, and cooks, they want to learn faster. They want to learn faster. They want to progress faster. It's like, cool, I've done that. It's like, but you haven't done that because you haven't made the same sauce for a month yet.
Yeah, and
you haven't burnt it yet.
Yeah.
And you're like, there's that point where I remember the sushi king was like, all of these sauces are fucked. I'm like, what did I do? He's like, you've over caramelized the meat. I said, I'm sorry, what? He's like, I'm going to come in tomorrow. Because at this point, I had switched over to being the one making the sauce. I'm going to come in tomorrow and show you what you're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. So he came in the next day, and I'm browning the butter, and I'm getting the meat in there. It's all made with white stocks. There was no dark stocks at all. Mm-hmm. And we're caramelizing the meat, and I'm adding in the onions and the garlic and the thyme and bay. And he's like, right there, that's too much. I said, I got to get the onions, got to get the color. He's like, yeah, but your meat's gone too far. By the time we finish, your meat's over caramelized, and because it's such a heavy reduce, it's that real like reduce. Everything over caramelized. The sugars caramelized too far at the end, not at the beginning. At the beginning, it was delicious. I could eat this on a sandwich, but at the end, it had got so dark that it was just like a hint of bitter at the back of the palate. And he's like, that started right here, and that you can't teach that anymore because it's just. That's a lot of money that's getting put in the
Not only that, but sometimes I would change kitchens, and when I was younger, I would change kitchens, and when you change chefs, and I've worked in kitchens where they had faith in me. They're like, okay, you're the saucier, and we've tasted how you make sauce, and we like it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take that from this kitchen, and now that I start in this kitchen as a saucier, but this chef likes to put his tomato paste in different.
Yeah,
right. And I do everything else the same, but I'm going to do this one little thing different based on the new place, and it doesn't taste the same anymore. And now I have to relearn how to cook.
Yeah.
I have to relearn how to make the sauce that I've made where we'd rub the bones with tomato paste and roast it. And now the chef says, don't rub the bones, put the tomato paste directly
in the pot.
In the pot.
Pan.
Yeah. And now it's completely different. And so it's almost like I have to relearn what I thought I was really good at.
Yeah.
And so I think about this when you're a young cook and you saw the video and you know how to make it. Yes, you know how to make it that way.
Yeah.
But what happens when you don't have tomato paste?
You can't taste the video.
You cannot taste the video.
You can't taste the video. You can't smell it. My favorite smell in the world is fresh cut lawns. My second favorite smell in the world is the meat's browning. You've thrown in your onion, your garlic, your bay leaf, and then that thyme hits the brown butter, and it just goes crackle, 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 and the smell is amazing. If there's any cook around me at that time, like, get over here and fucking smell this, and like that right there is we are making sauce. This is going to be delicious.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, and I think about this too. A lot of people, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of chefs, very, very talented chefs, but sometimes what we know as chefs and what we find delicious isn't always what we cook because there's always a little bit of the aspect of playing the game.
Yeah.
Does it have a fermented thing?
Yeah.
Let's make a little of this and add a little of that.
Yes.
And so you end up with something that is like, because you have to be witty with the menu. This has finger lime on it, or this has a that on there. This is an emulsified sauce made from the fermentation of whatever, right? And then every now and again, I'll taste food from a chef. I'm just going to use you as the example. If I asked you, and you're like, I'm just going to cook for you, like I'm making you a sauce, your favorite sauce, and I would taste it, and I would say, that doesn't taste like anything I've tasted in a restaurant in years, and it's better in a way.
Yeah, it's so true. It's we are losing that, and it's interesting. I have a young sous chef. Shout out to Gosha. He's doing a great job, and he's so excited about everything he sees. He wants to try it, and that's awesome. But I keep telling him, like, at the end of the day, this every sous chef has had to learn this lesson. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's my name on the restaurant, and people are here to eat my food. And yes, if we wanna make, right now he's making garum in my hallway, and I'm like, it has to be delicious, and it has to make sense on the plate. We're not just putting it on for the sake of it.
Yeah. And
it's been a fun learning curve watching him grow. Like, he put a dish up in front of me and he knows he's okay with me saying this. I said, that you can do better than that. And he's like, oh, okay. And he went off and he changed the whole thing, and he came back, and the smile on his face, like a week later, he's like, taste it now. I'm like, I already know this is going to be delicious. Like, I've watched you build this over the last week. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing because we took away the things that were unnecessary, superfluous, weren't the direction our restaurant, Quarter Acre, is going. And we came up with a dish that makes sense at Quarter Acre on a Toby Archibald menu at Quarter Acre.
How do you teach that to someone? I know you're kind of touching on how you taught that, but and I don't know if garum is a big part of your repertoire.
It's not.
But to a young cook, they want, like, I need to know how to make garum ASAP.
No,
right?
I didn't think so.
No, but a lot of cooks that are coming up now is like, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing? I just read the Noma fermentation book. I need to start getting after it. Actually, it's probably the new Noma sauce recipe or flavor, whatever it's called. But how do you incorporate that to a young cook? Because I think we're all there at one point.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really important. So I traveled a lot, and every kitchen I worked in did it different. From New Zealand, the multiple places in New Zealand, to London, to working all through Canada, then New York and Australia, working on yachts and such. Everywhere I traveled, there was more to learn. And the more you learned, it gave you the opportunity to question things that you knew, but the more you learned, it gave you the ability to solve the questions you were coming up with. So it's the more you try, like if you want to try making garum, go for it. Figure it out. But make sure someone else tastes it so that like it's not just you in an echo chamber going, this is delicious.
Right.
But it gives you the ability, you're giving yourself knowledge, your kitchen's getting knowledge that you can use if you want to. It's having the ability to say, that dish doesn't need that thing. I've started building plates at the restaurant, and like if I'm trying a new dish, and your instinct is to make it look fancy, right? You're like, you're gonna plate it up, and then like, everyone taste this, and they go, ooh, this looks nice. I'm like, no way, we're just getting a tray, and we're putting all the elements of what might be on the dish, just slapping them on a plate, and like little things like, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this. Now taste them all, and let's taste them again. It's like, that will not work with the rest of this dish. So that's off the table, you know, and we'll make it look fancy once we've figured out what this dish is going to be.
Yeah.
And it's important to, when you travel, you get the ability, when you work in other kitchens, you get the ability, when you learn, you get the ability to go, this works, this doesn't. You know what this dish needs? It needs this, that garum we made 6 months ago, you know, or you know what this dish needs?
Have you said that before, though?
No. This dish needs a really nice chicken jus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, for me, because of my background, it might be like, this dish needs some ginger juice. Like, I've got a dish on the menu right now because it's morel season. And it's just a single ravioli with this really nice pine nut and mushroom puree inside it, an amazing jus reduction with Madeira and port and finished with mascarpone and shallots. And then the chef's like, oh, this is great. I was like, go get the ginger juice. And he's like, what do you mean? And we just threw like 2 drops of ginger juice into this thing. He's like, what just happened? I was like, now we serve it. And for me, it's you have that palate, and you have, which takes time, and you've gained the ability to go, this needs a little bit more, or this needs a little bit less of X, Y, and Z. And that's hard to teach. That's just purely time and having the right people around you.
Yeah. And I know we got sidetracked. I want to go back to...
We'll do that.
Yeah, I do that a lot, right? We digress. So you're in London, and you just kind of touched on it right now. You're going through Canada, you've been to New York. How did we end up here?
So it's funny. When I first left New Zealand, I did this amazing road trip across America, because New Zealand like is down the bottom of the world, just looking at the world going, I got to go see that. And we travel. New Zealanders travel. We run out of world history by the time we're 12 years old. Sorry, New Zealand history by the time we're 12 years old. Then we just learn about the world. So we all want to get out there and see it. I came to America. I love music. I love movies. I love TV. America. The United States has everything it needs. It's just freaking huge. So it's a long way between all the cool things. So I did this trip, and then I finished in New York. And I had 2 restaurants. This is 2006. So I had 2 restaurants that I wanted to eat at. One was either Per Se or Restaurant Daniel. And I rang both to try and get a reservation. And I couldn't get a reservation at Per Se, and I could at Daniel. And I'm on the phone, I'm chatting away. And they said, yes, Mr. Archibald, not a problem. Your reservation is for tomorrow night. We will see you at this time. I said, excellent. And they said, have you got a jacket? Because you said you're traveling. I was like, yeah, I've got a jacket. And I hung up the phone. I looked around the nasty, hostel I was staying in, backpackers hostel. I was like, I wonder what kind of jacket they meant. I'm 23 years old, backpacking. Yeah. So I rang them back and said, yeah, it's me again. I said, what kind of jacket? A dinner jacket. I said, oh, I don't have a dinner jacket. I've got like a rain parka, like a jacket. Yeah. She said, it's all right, Mr. Archibald. If you come 20 minutes early, we can get you suited for a jacket. I was like, oh, okay. This story's going somewhere, I promise. I get there 20 minutes early. Right this way, Mr. Archibald. They walk me into a room about the size of this.
They know you're a cook chef.
Yes.
Yeah.
Walk me into this room, and there's dinner jackets on hangers. None of them are the same. They measured me up. They put me in a jacket. I walked out into the dining room. I looked $1,000,000 and I looked like I fitted in. I sat at the bar. I had one cocktail. The bartender just did that amazing thing where you feel like very natural conversation, but they're getting all of this information out of you. This is Michelin dining, right? And then they sat me in the middle of the dining room, in the middle. Solo diner. I got to look at the whole, it's an incredible dining room. Sommelier comes over and says, "Good evening, Mr. Archibald. Tasting menu this evening?" I said, "Oh yeah, for sure." He's like, "Wines?" I said, "All the wines." He's like, "Great. Well, normally we have New Zealand and Australian wine with the pairings, but tonight, because we know you're from there, we're going to lean a bit more American, give you some things that you might not have had before." I can't tell you what I ate that night, but that night changed my life. Mm-hmm. That hospitality, I was like, I'm going to come back and work for this man. So fast forward, I'm in London. I spent 3 years there. I traveled. I worked on yachts for a little bit, which was super fun.
Oh, how was that?
Oh,
you didn't get seasick?
No. And they're big boats.
Okay.
Yeah. Like one boat I was on was like, the biggest one I got on was like 30 meters long.
Hot stone?
Over 100. Yeah, they've got like these fun, it's all induction. You can't have gas on the boats. Yeah. And they have these fun, like the engineers make these cool like little metal cages that your pots can't slide around on. So that's on the induction, but then there's like a little guardrail, like when you go temping bowling, so the pots can't move around. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. That was super fun. I was in off the coast of France, so based out of Antibes, Saint-Tropez, Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat. It's also, the Amalfi Coast, all of that good stuff. It's Mediterranean. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool. And then I got home, and at that point, I was reaching out to Restaurant Daniel to try and get a job, and I got one. They were going to make me a senior tournant with a fast track to being the junior sous chef. And then the global recession hit, and they're like, "Sorry."
This is like 2008?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The recession hit, and they're like, "The visas are getting stopped. Sorry." So I didn't know what to do at that point. That was my plan, was go and work at Restaurant Daniel. And I was watching the Olympics, the Canadian Olympics, and then I noticed online that Danielle had a couple of restaurants in Vancouver. Got a visa for Canada within like 24 hours because I'm from New Zealand and they're from Canada. It's all in the Commonwealth. And off I went to Canada and worked for him there. Did like 6-month stint there. Decided that restaurant maybe wasn't for me. Did some snowboarding. Did some more yachts.
Did you spend a lot of time in Vancouver?
Yeah, I loved it. 6 months is awesome.
I love Vancouver.
It's so cool.
Yeah. So
till it rains.
I opened up. I was taking over for a chef at the Fairmont Hotel Van.
Oh yeah.
And so I was the chef there for the interim while they were hiring a chef. I was like the babysitter chef, right? Until they hired one, and I loved it. It was like
so cool.
I couldn't get a visa, otherwise I probably would have stayed there.
Yeah.
But I love Vancouver, and I remember thinking, because I was coming from Dallas to Vancouver, and I was like, oh my God, the food here is like light years ahead.
They've got an amazing immigrant population. So it's just, the food is up there is amazing.
Yeah, and that was the biggest influence that I brought back from my time in Vancouver to Dallas, because back then it was easier to, there wasn't internet, so you could steal some dishes.
Yeah,
no one's gonna notice. Like, ooh, what's Hawksworth got? Huh?
Yeah. Super talented dude. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no one in Dallas knows who that is.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put that on the dish. But it was great, and I remember just taking, I think one of the biggest things that I took from my time in Vancouver was just these little Asian touches.
Yeah.
Like just one of the things that they did that I still do to this day, I had never seen it before, is they cook a lot with ginger, but the pickled ginger. Mm-hmm. And like they'll chop it up and throw it in things, the pickled ginger, the pink stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, you're just throwing that in? And they're like, yeah, it's delicious. And I was like, fuck, it is delicious.
First time I ever had kimchi was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
They had kimchi tomatoes. It was like tomato season, and the dressing was made of, I was like, it's just, and because they're on that Pacific. And that's, again, like, I loved it because they got all the seafood and things like that.
Getting BC spot prawns for the first time. I was like,
just basted in some
flambé,
good bourbon or something.
A good smoked sable fish. I never had a lot of this stuff before.
Of course you haven't.
Texas, like, what is this?
And it's so fresh.
Yeah.
They're so good with fresh, and that reminded me a lot of home, because we have a similar thing, is we just we're south, they're north, but otherwise very similar. And I really loved Vancouver.
It was a great city. I think when I was there, and we're going to get on a tangent.
Yeah, we're doing that. I love it.
But when I was there, I don't remember what we had the big market there kind of close to the pier where you have all the charcuterie. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. I know you're. So we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, it's my jam.
But let's just jump right in. They had some amazing, like pate en croûte and all this other stuff, and then all the Italian charcuterie. But you like that? You like making that stuff, right?
That's my jam. So that was my next stint with Danielle was in Toronto, and it was a Cafe Boulud at the Four Seasons, and they brought in this charcutier from France.
Yeah.
And when I'd lived in London, all the French chefs, like, they'd get something in with the vegetable delivery, like, you got to eat this. And I'm like, what is this? And then you're in France and you're eating saucisson sec and you're traveling Paris and these streets where it's just like charcutiers and patisseries and you're like, far out. And then I just fell in love with that stuff. And then I got to see it in Vancouver and I'm like, oh man, I know how to make this stuff because we had made some of it at the restaurant I was working at in London. And I was really loving that. But then when I got to Toronto, the 7th generation charcutier turned up to make our charcuterie program. And at this point, I had started curing stuff. That was that fun, it was like 2012, 2013. That fun period in North America where everyone's like, let's make salami. Everyone's doing it. And I was like, I'm going to commandeer this whole walk-in cooler and make charcuterie inside of it. And so I did. I got the book, and I'm reading the charcuterie book, Ruhlman.
Yeah.
And I'm making all this stuff, and then the charcutier turns up. This dude, I'm not even lying. I loved him to begin with. Ended up being, he just went a little bit off the rails, but that's neither here nor there. But he could bone an entire pig with a spoon.
Wait, are you joking, or is that literal?
It's literal. He could debone a pig with a spoon.
Oh, good sharp fucking spoon.
But he just knew where all the muscles were. That was the point. And he could, it was funny because I'd follow him around and he's making boudin noir, boudin blanc, he's making pate en croûte, he's making pate gourmet, grand père, he's making mousses and livers and all the things. And he's like cooking on induction in this basement, refrigerated burner, and he's making sausages. And I'm like, I'm following. None of it's on a recipe. It's all just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm like, I gotta write this shit down. And I was a sous chef, so I had time. And he helped me go from I love what I'm eating to I can make what I love eating. That was massive for me because, I love Texas barbecue. Mm-hmm. One thing I don't love about Texas barbecue, no one in specific, so it's not incriminating, the sausage, because it's always cooked so long it's split for me, right? Like the fat comes out of it.
It seems to be the biggest criticism I get from chefs about Texas barbecue is the sausage.
It's split.
Yeah.
And the first time I made a sausage, he's like, it's good, but let me show you how to do that again. And he did everything I did. I seasoned it. He's like, the flavor's great. You put the seasoning in. So I did that, and he put it in, and then we ground it, and we put it and I was like, it's ready to go. He's like, we're going to put it in the mixer. And we put it in the mixer, and I was like, cool, we mix it. He says, no, we've got to keep going. And I said, why? And then it just goes thump, and it just turns into this paste, right? You just see it happen. The proteins just stick to each other. Mm-hmm. And I literally had this conversation with one of my cooks last week at Quarter Acre. Mm-hmm. We're looking for this because he had made the sausage, no offense to him, he had made the sausage the week before and they weren't good because they had split because he hadn't put them. You have to these little tricks that it's hard. Like again, you can't see this in a YouTube clip.
Right.
It's like you have to be there, you have to feel it, and then you have to take it and you have to go poach it, or you have to put it in a fry pan. Don't put it in the sausage casing until you know it's actually delicious, or you're about to waste another 20, 30 minutes of your life. And I got to see all of that, and that taking, again, it was learning more so that I could answer the questions I'd have down the track. And it was incredible. It was a huge part of my journey. I love making charcuterie. Like, I make a badass pate en croûte.
I'm thinking about this as a general statement, so this is going to piss some people off, possibly. But I felt like from all my travels in Canada and the United States, I do feel like Canada probably has better charcuterie. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Were you going to get in trouble for saying that?
No, I don't think so. I got lots of Canadian fans.
but I do. Like, I've had better charcuterie in Canada, Montreal and Vancouver than I have.
I think it's the farming.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of what I grew up with, that sort of stewardship of the land and knowing where things come and being really careful with the limited resources you have. We learn that in New Zealand, and I think in Canada they've got that down too. I think you think of, Quebec, Montreal, Quebec City, they've got that Frenchness to them, but also they've got proper seasons, right? It's hot to cold. It's hot to cold. Like, they have the proper seasons, so crops have actual seasons. Like, corn is only available at this time of the year, and that's because the whole country's north.
Yeah.
And then they look after their animals, and there's a real focus on that stewardship. And I think as a nation they tend to do that a little bit better, because they haven't got the population that needs mass feeding. They don't, all of that good stuff. And there's restaurants around the US that really look after their animals and things like that, and farmers and stuff. No slight against, there's amazing farms in this country. Yeah. But if we're going to be real generalized, it starts with the animal, right? It starts with the animal husbandry, and what is that? There's a reason in France they always harvest the pig at the same time of the year, because it's finished eating all the things it was supposed to finish. I was in Corsica, and there's this one cut out of a pig that they get there, and you eat the lomo that comes out of it. Sorry, this is Sardinia, the lomo, and you're like, whoa, what is that? They're eating wild thyme and sage. Like, the pigs are foraging on wild thyme and sage, and you can't. That terroir is a thing, and the Canadians, they know how to raise really good animals when they come to that thing, and they're really specific about what they're picking.
So very intentional. What is the what's the expression? All salumi, but not all salami, or something like that, right? Yeah. What's the big difference between and I know you're going to correct me here, but Italian charcuterie and the French style. And is that charcuterie on the Italian side?
No.
Okay.
See, that's the other thing for me is I always chuckle because I got to see all of this. Charcuterie is French cured and cooked and aged meats, right? Salumi is the way the Italians do it, and they're so different. And if you put on this side of the table Italian stuff, and then you put on this side of the table French stuff, you'd be like, oh, they're very different. But when you go to a restaurant, you get a charcuterie board, it's almost 9 times out of 10 all Italian style things, so it shouldn't actually be called a charcuterie board. I get weird pet peeves on things such as that.
It's a salumi board.
But French charcuterie it comes right back to their they formalized cooking. The Brigade Kitchen and all of that good stuff, Carême and Escoffier and all those guys. And charcuterie became a way of expressing amazing techniques. How can we set something in aspic? What did we make the aspic out of? What can we do with this pig's trotter? Confying duck, turning it into a rillette. What can we do with the foie gras? Let's cook it at X amount of degrees and then press it into a tureen with this very specific spice mix that only French people use. All of that good stuff. The Italians that seems like a lot of hard work. We're going to cut the pig open, cure the muscles, and hang it. You make
it sound so simple.
But that is a very simplified version. But that's what they do. Theirs is all cured, hanging. Time will make this delicious. We're going to trust in the fact. Prosciutto di Parma it comes from that part of the country, not because they are the best at it because of the countryside, because there's breeze coming through the windows that they open in the factories where all the hams are just hanging and curing on salt. That's why prosciutto di Parma is its flavor, because all that breeze is coming off the fields in that part of the world, and it's, you take this amazing Berkshire or Mangalista or Duroc or Pate Negro over in Spain, right? They take these one cuts and they cure them, and it's amazing. But then the French are like, cool, what if we confit it in fat, puree it up, and make this something else amazing? Neither of them, in my book, are better than the other. It's all about where are we eating it, who are we eating it with, What are we drinking?
Do you lean a certain way on how you personally like to make it yourself?
I make a lot of the French style in my at Quarter Acre. Like we've got a sausage. This is a weird. Not everyone knows this, but there's always a charcuterie dish on the menu at Quarter Acre, and it's my little nod to my past, and I love it. There's always a terrine, or right now we've got this sausage, but the sausage is just this amazing sausage with ramps in it, and there's a ramp butter on the bread, and it's served on a piece of basic white bread with bare braised onions, and then this green ketchup that we put on top. And I learned how to do all of this through my career, but it's actually a really, really fancy version of something super basic I grew up with. And that's a really cool, we call it Harry's Sausage Sizzle. Harry's my dad. Sausage Sizzle is the act of cooking the sausages and they're sizzling, and it's a fundraising event that every New Zealander does throughout their life to raise money. It's like $1 for a sausage, and they raise money for sports teams or the local school or whatever. So this dish is our current charcuterie dish, and it's got ramps because the season's just finished, but we've processed them all, and the butter's made from the tops and the ramps on the inside, and it's freaking delicious.
Yeah.
And it's something I can teach my team, and they don't, whether they realize it or not, they're learning like really amazing skills. The kitchen's the classroom.
Yeah.
You know? And if they're okay learning, if they want to learn, and if they pay attention, it's all there for them, right? And that's being able to give back to them and create that culture where they can come in and learn. And then I can teach charcuterie. It's such a old school technique, again, like we were just talking about. It doesn't really exist. And we managed to make it fun and modern at the same time. It's not just, here's a slab of terrine with some mustard and some crusty bread, which is good.
Yeah.
But we always turned it into an elevated dish as well.
I everything that you're saying is like, I love this style of food. I love eating it. I love, my charcuterie skills are probably not as advanced beyond the basic country pate.
That's so
like,
good.
like my skills. I mean, I can make a pate en croûte, but it's not going to be like, it's not going to enter the pate en croûte competition. you know, I don't even think I'll get past the first round. But I do love that style of food. But I want to go back because we stopped in Canada.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in the United States?
So that's I got there. So I was in Toronto working at Cafe Boulud there as a sous chef. I got off the yachts. I was dating a Canadian girl. Met one of my good friends, Luke. And he said, "Hey, I've just started working at. I've just signed on to open this restaurant, Cafe Boulud, here in Toronto, the Four Seasons. You should look into it." I met the head chef. He said, "I need one more sous chef. You're it. If you can get off that boat." And I was like, "I'm off the boat. Let's go." And so I spent almost 3 years there, which was really fun. I got a permit so I could work in Canada. And then being at Cafe Boulud, we came under the umbrella of Gavin Kaysen, who was, at that time, he was in charge of the 3 Cafe Bouluds. Us in Toronto, New York was the mothership, and then the one down in Florida. And he came up a few times to sort of check in and see what we're doing, making sure the 3 restaurants all, even though they're in different places, still fit together. And then he approached me. He said, "Hey, I got a sous chef spot coming up in New York. Would you be interested?" I said, "You want me to move to New York?" He said, "Yeah." I was like, "To be your sous chef?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, man." And at this point, I was single. And I'm like, "Let's go. I'm doing it. The most roundabout way, I'm getting to work for Danielle Boulud in New York."
Based on that dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kicked off the whole thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
How was it when you finally got there?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's a beast. Cafe Boulud's an amazing restaurant, but man, it's busy.
Yeah.
And Gavin's awesome. That's how I met Aaron Bluedorn. I had to go back to New Zealand. It took like 3 months for my visa to come through. And
Aaron's like the king of Houston now.
yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah,
So
he's
awesome.
Yeah.
He came and did a dinner with us 2 years ago. He's a good friend.
amazing.
We still play fantasy football together, actually.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
He not only is he extremely successful, amazingly talented, he's also like one of the nicest human beings.
So nice.
Yeah.
So nice. He's just, I have nothing but good things to say about Aaron.
Same.
And it was really interesting because when I got to New York, like I said, that I'd spent 3 months getting a visa. I got there, and about a week later, Gavin pulled everyone into the giant PDR, gave them the news that he was leaving. And I'm like, my mouth just dropped. I was like, what just happened? I came to work for this guy. And he said, we'll have a chat. And so we had a chat, and he said, look, this was on the radar for a long time, but it's just happened. I'm opening my own restaurant up in Minneapolis, and I got to move. It's got to happen. But Aaron's going to need you, and he's a great guy. He's very talented, and I wouldn't have brought you here if I didn't think you could help him, and he could help you. And so that was how Aaron and I started our relationship was, hey, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but I'm here to run one of your sections for you and half your kitchen. And over a year, we just formed this amazing friendship. You know, when I left, he hosted this dinner for me, invited Travis, who was at Boulud Suit. That's how Travis and I know each other. He invited Danielle. Danielle came to my farewell dinner. We were eating at Momofuku because Aaron knew one of the guys there. They'd worked together. And I'm sitting there, and he's like, Danielle's coming. I was like, Danielle's coming to my leaving dinner? He said, yeah. And so he came in, and he's just, he's larger than life.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was a really interesting experience because I'd done so much growing on the culinary side and learning what I like to cook and how I like to plate and all of those good things. And then I got thrust into this world that's quite classic, like quite more classical than I'd done. It was the way that the dishes at Cafe Boulud are more classical than what I was used to.
And I would argue that possibly when people need a frame of reference of the right way to do something, they refer to Cafe.
100%.
Like for in the U.S., if you're like, what's the right way to do this? How does Cafe do it?
It's insane,
right?
It's amazing.
So even if they're not trying to, they're by default.
And the cooks were all incredible. Like you go in and everyone was good at their job, and if they weren't, they got good at their job really quick.
Yeah.
Because the team was amazing. The sous chefs were amazing. Aaron was incredible. The front of house was incredible. The dishwashers were amazing. Like, it was just an amazing machine to be a part of. But I'd really define my time there, to be honest. I got to really flex my creative muscle because I was in charge of basically the meat side of the menu. Anything meat had my fingerprints on it, and got to work with all the cooks and things. But so I got to flex that muscle a lot, which was really, really cool. Got to see New York. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But the hospitality, this is coming right back to how I wanted to work for that man again. And it's really funny. I often think of this because I tried to go to Per Se or Danielle.
Right.
And I got a reservation at Danielle, and that has literally defined the rest of my career.
30 years in the kitchen, 7 books, 200 podcast episodes, all distilled into a 5-minute daily leadership practice. It's called Lead Like a Chef. Most people who get promoted quit the industry within 2 years, not because they can't cook, but because no one taught them how to lead. I built an app that does. Lead Like a Chef. Take the free 2-minute quiz that tells you exactly where you stand. Go to studio.com/Andre. Link is in the show notes.
So that one decision just changed the entire course of my life. I ended up eating at Restaurant Danielle, and now my experience in North America is very Dinex and Danielle. I'm great friends with Gavin. I'm great friends with Aaron. But that hospitality I experienced that one night eating at Restaurant Danielle, and then I got to watch it play out for a whole year in New York, watching Danielle be who he is. He walks into a kitchen, he knows every cook's name. He knows what they chatted about last time. He knows, hey, you were away last time. How was the wedding?
He doesn't remember my name. Here's a funny story. Here's a funny story. I bumped into him at, Chris Lee?
No.
So Chris Lee's he used to be my boss. He's the culinary director of the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. He worked for Danielle at some point, and so we're talking at the James Beard Award. I'm talking to him, and he says, "Oh, there's Daddy. Danielle's walking around, larger than life."
Yeah.
And I said, I got to go pay some respect. I got to go say hi.
Got to kiss the ring.
I got to kiss the ring.
Yeah.
You got to. So I go up to him. Hey, chef, good to see you. And when you haven't seen someone in a long time and your wheels are turning, like, why do I know you? Why do I know you?
Yeah.
I said, hey, chef. So I reintroduced myself. He's like, Andre. It's like, the podcast. It's like, the podcast. I was like, yeah. And after that, I was like, all right.
Oh, damn it.
Good seeing you, chef. And I'm like, I don't know what he meant by that. I was like, have I said any stupid shit on here?
That's the thing. You just don't. That's so funny. But yeah, that was one of the gifts I loved about him. He knew everybody, and maybe not everybody, but and he did the same when he came to Toronto, and we'd every time we did a new menu, he'd come in and take once a week, he came up with the idea, we'd work on it, we'd taste it with Aaron, he'd be like, great, and then we'd do a tasting with a whole new menu all at once, off in the PDR, and Danielle would be there and taste every single dish. And I watch him, he's like, and there's that noise he makes, it needs this. And quite often, if you walked away and all your dish needed was sherry vinegar and Espelette, you're like, nailed it.
Yeah.
But he was a part of everything, even though he wasn't. And that's why he's been so successful.
He's the best. Anytime I've been around him, and I obviously haven't spent as much time with him as you have, but I think the times that I have been around him have been social settings, right? I've never worked in his kitchen, so any interactions I've had with Danielle have been social settings, whether it's a mentor event or something along those lines. And I will say, he is always the life of the party. 100% of the time. Insane. I don't know where he gets the energy.
He's like undiagnosed ADHD is what he is.
Yeah.
He's amazing. But I've been in social settings where before you know it, he's not part of the restaurant. He's not part of where we're having the social event. And he gets behind the bar and he's pouring people drinks and he's been there like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy's amazing. It's just, he's got charisma just coming out. And people love working for him. That was another huge takeaway for me, was people are very proud when they say that they worked in his kitchens. They're proud when they are working in his kitchens because they also know they're learning great skills and technique. And that was a huge takeaway for me, was how proud everyone was to work for him, knowing that maybe he wasn't even there every day. We certainly wasn't there every day. But the depth that you can learn, especially on the classical side of things, but then the pride that they all shared, knowing that they worked hard, and then the network you were exposed to. And
I think
he's a huge talent.
I had a conversation with someone once, and really, really affluent, really, really wealthy, affluent person that I'll leave anonymous.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and he was explaining to me, we were talking about schools, and he says, this is the right school to go to.
Okay.
And I said, why is that? And I said, it's not even that big of a deal. Why would you want to go to that school? And he's like, it's not about the school. It's about who you meet at that school.
Yeah.
And when you meet those people at the school, he's like, you're going to be able to go anywhere in the world and they're going to open a door for you. And he was talking about some fucking scary shit. He wasn't talking about culinary school.
No,
he was talking about a different school.
Yeah.
But the same thing applies when you go to some of these kitchens, because they're kind of like finishing school. You go and you work. You're talking about working at under Danielle, but it's like, okay, you got Aaron, you got Gavin, so many others. Those are just two names. The same thing with Thomas. You go work under Thomas. Kitchen. All these other doors are going to open for you because it's almost like you're a part of the brotherhood.
Yes.
Now, fast forward to what year is this? 2026.
Yeah.
We got Quarter Acre.
Yeah.
Your spot.
Yeah. Trying to build that.
Which you're doing some really important things in the city of Dallas. And I want to talk about it's an important restaurant because you have this philosophy with how you cook, with your identity tied to it, but it's also a story of who you are as a chef.
Yeah.
So, I'm just rambling, but you're better at telling your story than I am.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I mean, you've been listening to my story. First up, Quarter Acre is my restaurant.
Yeah.
I own it. I have investors. Took a lot of effort to get to that point, and because of that, it's the consolidation of all my experience, both in life, restaurants, culinary, dining. All of that melted down to this one smallish little space on Greenville Avenue in Dallas, Texas, next to the Trader Joe's. But it's a really special restaurant for me because it's obviously my first restaurant. I've run other restaurants for other people, and this is that first opportunity I've got to really do my food and not have someone say, "Hey, I think you need to take that off the menu," or "I don't like this. This isn't going to land." It lands. Mm-hmm. It lands a lot, and it lands really, really well. And we're building something there with me and my team. I have an amazing team, both back of house and front of house. Like my general manager, Jacob, he's been with me since day one. He does all the beverage program. And when I went to open and people were trying to ask me, what are you opening? I said, I'm going to open a great restaurant. Well, what sort of restaurant? Is it French? Is it Italian? Is it Mediterranean? I said, it's just a really great restaurant. We're going to serve great food. And after I had a few of those conversations, I realized what I was bringing to the city was quite different. Now, if you were to go to New Zealand or Australia, because we are quite similar, this restaurant would not be out of place there because we are okay with a restaurant not having a bucket it has to live in. So Quarter Acre is just a really great restaurant that happens to serve great food the way I want it to be served right now. And a lot of that has stories attached to it. The dining room has stories attached to it. I got to contribute to all of the design aspects of it. Obviously, I'm not a designer, so we had an amazing design team. Coeval in Dallas, they're incredible. And they asked me, the first question they asked was like, what do you want people to feel when they walk in? I said, I want people to feel like they've stepped out of Dallas into a restaurant that could fit anywhere in New York, Chicago, London, Paris,
I have
Australia.
an important question.
Yeah.
What's the playlist?
Oh, it's awesome. It's mine.
Yeah, what is it?
It's funny because whenever I get a new cook, we listen to music in the kitchen, and one of my cooks is like, your music is all over the place. I'm like, I define music I like as has to make me happy.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like poppy. I love pop music. It's great. I can, but if it's rap, it needs to be like fun, bouncy rap, like Tupac in his prime. And there's a Biggie Small song that comes on almost every night late at the end of the night. There's a couple of, there's Aerosmith, there's Chili Peppers. At the beginning of the night, you get some cool Kiwi sort of chill beach tunes. There's reggae, and it's funny. When we opened, I was like, here's the playlist, just hit shuffle. And Jay was like, it's like 7 hours of music on here. And he said, the trouble is it goes up, and then it goes down, and then it goes across, then it goes up. So he had to spend a bunch of time going, right, we're going to put this in a sequence so that it's a nice slow ramp up, down, and then ramp up again. Because he says, we could be listening to, Run DMC, and then on comes this, Tracy Chapman song. And he's like, it's not in the same place.
Right.
But he's built it into a really cool flow. And I love that because the restaurant, we take ourselves really serious what we do. Mm-hmm. But we're not. You need to feel like you're in a really relaxed environment. And that was the second thing they asked me. After a global look-feel restaurant, I said, I want people to walk in and it's very calm. And it's relaxed. They can relax. If you walk in a suit and tie and the wife's wearing her pearls and you're having your 50th anniversary, you could sit down next to a couple on one side that's having their first date and they don't know what they're doing. They're Googling the food. And on the other side is a friend of mine and he's wearing his cut-off denim shorts and a singlet. Yeah. And everyone has an amazing experience because everyone belongs at it.
What's a singlet?
What do you guys call them? Like a tank top?
Oh, a tank top, yeah.
Yeah, singlet.
Yeah. I call that a singlet is like what people wear in wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
A wrestling singlet. Here's a funny story. One of my best friends is an Aussie.
Okay.
And your slang is different.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And we were at his wedding. His wedding. He's a chef too, and we're at the. I'm waiting for him at the pool, and he's taking a long time. I'm like, hey, where is this guy? And he finally shows up. He's like, oh, sorry, mate. I was looking for my I couldn't find my thong. And I said, what? And he says, yeah, I was looking everywhere and I couldn't find them. I was looking for my thongs and I couldn't find them. And so I had to go to my dad's room and borrow his thong. And I said, your dad has a thong? He says,
wearing it?
Yeah. And that's exactly what I said. I said, and you're wearing your dad's thong? And I'm looking at him and he points at his feet. He says, my thongs, mate. I was like, oh, you mean sandals?
Yeah. And we call them jandals. So it's just just a mess. Yeah. But thongs, I thought there was two ways that story is like, I came down in my cozy. They call it like a swimming costume, a cozy.
Yeah.
And we call it togs.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah. But
why do you think, and I know it's an important restaurant right now, your restaurant, but I also think it's a very important restaurant for Dallas because I think it introduces something new to Dallas that Dallas hasn't had. Your style of food.
Yeah.
But your style of food has a very interesting story, like you shared earlier. You've kind of gone through through your travels. But am I wrong in thinking that it is? But it is still a New Zealand restaurant.
Yeah, it's interesting. People ask me that a lot, and the way I phrase it is, it's a New Zealand restaurant, but the food is not just New Zealand. New Zealand is really young, and because we're so young and we've had immigrants come in from all around the world, we've got people that have, obviously the first people there were British, Scottish, and then you've got, all the Polynesian people from Samoa, Tonga, Niue, and then this huge influx from Japan, and then there's influx from Korea and Thai and the Philippines, massive populations of Indian and Pakistani. So where I grew up in South Auckland, it's a melting pot. So you don't have to go to one particular part of the city just to get that kind of food. There's an Indian restaurant in every corner, sort of thing, and there's so coming up, that was not weird for me to put lime juice into a dish that otherwise wasn't necessarily. We don't have limes in New Zealand. They do now, but a Thai flavored dish at a restaurant that's also serving this amazing French duck dish was not weird. And so here at Quarter Acre, that is what we're doing. I have one dish on the menu that is this raw fish, and we named it ceviche so people would actually buy it. And it's because at home it's just called raw fish.
Yeah.
And it's just diced fish with citrus, bell peppers, onions, and coconut milk. And it's amazing. And then I just created this very elevated version of that, and people will just love it. And they're like, they get it, and they go, wait, I ordered the ceviche. Yes, you did, and here it is. Let me tell you all about it. And the servers, we arm them with that information. They know the stories of all the dishes because almost every dish has a story to it. And they explain it to them, and the guests get that. And that storytelling. People can taste food tastes better when you know there's care behind it. And that care comes from me taking the time to tell the servers why it's emotionally connected to me, where the dish idea came from, and then again, my travels and my working in great restaurants everywhere was giving me the ability to convey that story into a dish. It's like my biography on a plate. Enjoy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You've clearly you're putting your soul into it. What is next for you?
Next,
can you talk about it?
Yes and no. Working on something next for sure. Obviously, coming from Danielle and the group that he was in, the Dynex group, I got to really see how an amazing restaurant group could run and be very successful. And that's something I'd love to emulate. It's getting Quarter Acre to the point where it's sustainable and killing it, which we're doing, so that's amazing. And then looking around and seeing what's next. I'd like to lean into my Frenchness a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a French restaurant around the corner.
The charcuterie restaurant?
Yeah, great charcuterie.
Yeah.
Maybe some salumi as well. And then, but what I'd really love, to be honest, as well, is I'd like to do a French spot, but I'd also, at the same time, I really want to do this very laid-back New Zealand-style restaurant bar. And that just doesn't exist in Dallas. You've either got somewhere where you can go and watch sports and eat terrible food, or you can go and eat great food, but you can't watch the sports. Why can't there be a bar that girls love going to and they can drink their Aperol Spritz and the boys are in the corner drinking a bucket of beer watching the game?
Yeah.
But it's the service is amazing and the food is great. And I think that concept would really kill it in Dallas. It's got to find the spot for it.
Yeah. Dallas sometimes gets a tough reputation that people don't like food.
No,
I don't think that. I don't think that's true. But people expect good service.
Yes.
Right.
Service
I think,
is massive.
Between a lot of the Texas cities, if I look at Houston and Dallas and Austin and San Antonio, I always think Dallas has the best service.
It's incredible.
Of all the cities.
People do expect really good service, and that was when we're creating Quarter Acre, I tasked the front of house managers with that is how do you explain to people that the service has to be great?
Yeah.
And it's the little touches. It's like, hey, here's this knife. Let me tell you about this open L knife because chef loves French people and this is their knife. This is what you're eating your steak with. But at the same time, my wife, love her, she noticed this for the first time the other night. One water glass has a circle coaster, another water glass has a square coaster. And it's a little trick. It's like this person's getting sparkling water and this person's getting still water, and the server just walks up to the table and knows. How did they know that my water glass had sparkling water in it? If you don't see the coaster, you don't know. But that's the trick.
Right.
And that's that level of service that we bring. And then the other hard part of great service is getting the servers and the cooks and the dishwashers and your purveyors to buy into what you're trying to do. And selling my knowledge and my ability. And one of my bartenders, he's a server as well, MJ's a great guy. He said to me the other day, he said, you make our life really easy. You make my job really easy. Because I know at the table, when I say, that's delicious, you've got my back. He says, I know the kitchen has my back. He said, that's what one of the easiest parts about this restaurant is. I know that back there, it's going to be amazing. The drinks are going to be amazing. The service is going to be amazing. So when I say you're about to have the best meal of your year, when they sit down, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be right. And he's like, and that makes working at Quarter Acre really easy.
Chef, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask a couple of questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope you're ready.
I am.
Yeah, I know. What people don't know is as soon as you walk inside, I see a lot of blue tape everywhere. Mr. Producer likes blue tape. Not me. I'm a green tape
everywhere.
person.
For the record, it's everywhere. There's blue tape everywhere.
What's your tape? Is it red? I'm sorry, red. Is it blue or is it green?
It's blue.
It's blue.
It's a blue tape. And it's funny because before I got to North America, I didn't give 2 craps what color the tape was.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It's a thing.
And then the next question is it scissors or a cutter, right?
Yeah.
Where I first saw this was in Toronto, and all the cooks would peel off this massive piece of tape off a cutter, and then they'd post it on the stainless steel bench they're working on, and they'd write on it, and they'd use a knife and cut it.
I don't like that.
Well, I hated it because they're like, oh, chef, it's Thomas Keller, it's always straight, always perfect. I was like, cool, but what about this little nubbin that you're just going to leave behind for the rest of the day? I got to look at that.
Yeah. My problem is when I see people on the stainless steel table doing
Oh,
it.
Yeah,
it's like you're scratching it.
You're scratching it.
We just took, we were back and forth on that.
One direction.
Yeah.
One direction.
Yeah. And now we got lines on it.
Yeah.
You know how long it's going to take to take those lines out? I saw this thing in one of my chef group chats. Someone sent a dispenser where it automatically cuts the tape. It dispenses and cuts the tape.
Oh.
I was like, oh, that's cool.
Like a little
automatic
electric. Zzz.
Yeah, and it cuts about that long.
Huh.
That's perfect.
Maybe if they're listening, they can send you one.
I don't even know who makes it. I just it was like, check this out. I was like, oh, that's cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Are you a all-purpose workhorse salt in your kitchen? Is it Diamond Crystal? Is it Morton's? Is it the blue can?
So the Baleen is the one that Dynex uses across all their restaurants. It's a super fine one. Again,
La Baleen, right?
Yeah. Until I was in North America, I didn't realize this was a huge conversation.
Yeah. What did you use?
I just salt. Just used salt, or if depending on the chef, it was salt, or sal, and I just salt. So even in our kitchen today, it's not. The cook's like, oh, we've got Diamond Crystal, and then the next week, like, oh, we've got Morton's, and then
it doesn't make a difference when you're cooking.
My whole thing is it does. It makes a huge difference if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Right. For me, it's like pay attention. But all my recipes are in grams, and when you weigh it out, it's almost always the same.
Is your salt is also in grams, percentage wise?
Just grams. The percentage recipes I find interesting. I never really got into that, but I know for a fact I could, because all of mine I do the base ingredient at 1,000 grams. So a kilo of something. That's what we're making. If it's sausage or if it's vegetables or if it's whatever, the top ingredient is 1,000. Then everything else stems from that. And then you can, I've got 2.2 kilos. It's like times the whole recipe by 2.2. That's how I do my recipes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then as far as, what is your go-to acid in the kitchen?
Lemon juice.
Lemon juice.
Ah.
You have like lemon cheek squeezers everywhere?
No, we go through so much, but we squeeze it and we have it in bottles everywhere. Yeah. It's and we do it daily. It's I grew up with a lemon tree in my backyard.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that not everyone in the world grows up with a lemon tree in their backyard. It's like if I'm drinking gin tonic, lemon, not lime, you know. And I just tell the bartender, it's like, I like the British version. I like the lemon, you know. But lemon juice for me, it goes hand in hand with salt. It's like just a squeeze of lemon. You don't have to. It doesn't have to taste like lemon. Just brightens it. It makes everything very bright. And the food at the restaurant, the way I like to cook, even if I'm cooking a heavy French meal, like I just said with the morels, I put a bit of ginger juice in it. It still needs to feel bright and fresh. I don't want people walking out of the restaurant feeling like they need a roll because they're heavy. You know?
What are you using for plate wipes?
Oh, it's linen likes. We cut them, we fold them to little rectangles, and then it's distilled vinegar, lots of that, and a little bit of water.
Last question. Actually, I have two more. Mount Rushmore of chefs. So Mount Rushmore is four people on the mountain.
Yeah.
So who are the 4 chefs that would be on your Mount Rushmore?
So again, I like to be organized. I've thought about this, and it really came down to, it was tough. But the first one for me is going to be Michel Bras, because my head chef worked for him. It's funny because I've got all these amazing chefs in my life, but for me, chef is Antonin Bonnet that I worked with in London. Like this is Chef Gavin Kaysen, this is Chef Danielle, this is Chef Michael, this is Chef Simon. That one's just Chef, because that just changed my life. So Chef worked with him when they got their 3rd star, and I literally got the Michel Bras book a year or so into working there. I was like, oh, we did this dish. Oh, we did this dish. I can look at that book and go, I did this dish. I did this dish. And the way it's plated, that's how I like that negative space. I like essences of food. The dude was doing garden to table before anyone else knew that vegetable gardens existed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything that I won't name any restaurants, but restaurants like, oh, we have our own gardens. Like his son's now doing it. Like they did this before. They took a random place in the middle of nowhere, France, and made it a destination.
Yeah.
It's the epitome of a 3-star restaurant. You have to get there, and like we grow things. We pick that damn salad with over 50 ingredients on it. We did one in London that I had to make when I was on Garmin every day.
What is it called?
It's the garden. It's called the garden. I can't remember the specific name for it.
Yeah,
but it's beautiful, and it's got all these condiments.
We've all done like our iterations of it as chefs, right?
We had to make it every day, and I had to throw everything in the trash at the end of the day and make it again. I was like, wow. And then you see it in the book, you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
He's so talented, and they invented the chocolate lava cake.
Right. Did he? I thought Jean-Georges did.
No, it's him. The fondant, the chocolate fondant. He invented it.
Yeah,
coulant, they called it.
The chocolate coulant.
Yeah.
So I've heard multiple people have said different people have invented it. And someone's lying, or everyone had the same idea at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Does that also happen?
Yeah, maybe. That does, yeah. But
who else is on your Mount Rushmore? You got
Danielle, for sure.
Okay.
I think
for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, but also I know if he walked in here right now, I'd be able to I'd pick up a conversation. Like when I went to leave New York, Aaron told him, hey, Toby's leaving, his visa's up, he's leaving. He made a point to come. He's like, how much longer is he there? 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was. He made a point of carving out time in his calendar to come and sit with me for over an hour.
Yeah.
And just talk. And how had I found it? And all of these good things. And then he's like, where are you going? I said, I'm moving to Australia. And he said, whereabouts? I said, Sydney. He pulled out his phone and he's looking up hotels in Sydney to see if he could put a restaurant in one of these hotels for me so I could stay working for him.
Wow.
Like he's just
amazing.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
He's like, damn, they've got one in Melbourne. Do you want to go to Melbourne? I was like, I'm going to Sydney. But and just the hospitality he shows, people love. Everyone that's eaten at his restaurant thinks he's back there cooking for them and he's their best friend. He goes out to tables and he's shaving truffles and he's pouring wine and he's the life of the party and he's all of those things. Plus the man is immensely talented. Yeah. Like he elevated almost the whole city's cuisine by himself. Right. In a country where he's not from.
Right.
Way to go.
So that's 2.
The next 2 are a little off the wall.
Yeah.
One is a Kiwi chef. I have to put him on there. His name is Peter Gordon. Mm-hmm. He's our Wolfgang Puck. So he is as far as we're concerned, he invented fusion cuisine. And he had this restaurant in New Zealand called the Sugar Club. Mm-hmm. Came up in New Zealand, really coastal life, eating like every Kiwi kid did, but his grandma was an amazing cook. He had Sugar Club, and then he moved to London and he opened a restaurant called Providores. And in that time, he traveled. Like he traveled through Southeast Asia, Europe, and such. Whether or not this is true, but I'm pretty sure it is. He's the first documented cookbook to have pomegranate molasses in the recipes outside of like that part of the world. Like he was like, what if we put this on it? And he's still alive, and he's still a hero to every New Zealand chef wants to cook for Peter Gordon.
Hopefully he hears this.
Yeah, maybe.
Give him some love.
Yeah. He's really talented, really down to earth, big on the rights of Indigenous people, and just a great ambassador for our industry. And he's traveled and he's done it. He's a success story. And the reason, like, at the end of the day, whether or not the world knows this, we're all cooking fusion cuisine. We just don't like to call it that.
Yeah.
Like, we are. As soon as you put, a meat skewer on a you put an Indian flavored meat skewer on a tortilla, you're doing fusion food. You put soy sauce into your mushroom ragu, you're doing fusion food. You know what I mean? It's all, and then you can just go from there, right? And so people just don't like the word because it got a bit crazy there.
No, it's the word, and when people hate fusion food, they just hate a certain style of fusion food that went really, off the rails.
Yeah, we can all admit that.
Yeah, it went a bit off the rails. And then who's your fourth?
This is another chef that I really like. I've never met him, but because of it really speaks to me. It's I'm never sure if I get his name right, but it's Yotam on the Ottolenghi.
Yes, yeah.
He has the restaurants in London. I was fortunate enough to find one of his books on one of the yachts I worked on, the Plenty book. And I was like,
he has a class on Masterclass.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that I watched all his cooking series on it.
Yeah.
He's great. Like not only is his food amazing, but he's also a great teacher of that style.
Yes, and he seems like a great guy.
Yeah.
Like I love, he's just a great guy. And I went back to London to visit some friends, and I made a point of going to his restaurant. The way they do service blew my mind. It's like a elevated buffet. You see all the food on the way in, and then the servers go and like scoop it onto a plate for you, but it's all these beautiful chinaware. And if something runs out, that's it. They're done for the day, but they've got more food coming through that you didn't have access to 20 minutes ago because you sat down, you're eating these large, long dining tables, and everything's just delicious. And he cooks the way I want to eat.
Yeah.
It's very fresh, very vibrant. He's making sauces. He's making dressing out of chickpeas instead of just hummus. He's putting curry powder into the yogurt to dress the green beans. And there's acid and there's fat and it's bright and it's fresh, and the dining room was cool. And I own all of those books and I love it.
I like his food a lot too. It's a lot of his stuff is how I eat at home.
Yeah.
Like, just fresh, healthy.
Yeah.
Chef, before we wrap up, like I said, last question.
All right.
Where can people find you? Where can they eat at your restaurant? Where can they follow you on social media?
Right. So I'm pretty sure last time I checked, I'm the only Toby Archibald in the world. So Toby Archibald's Instagram, restaurant's Quarter Acre in Dallas, Texas, on Greenville Avenue next to the Trader Joe's. And that's where they can find me and just follow what we're doing. We've got this amazing dinner series coming up this year.
Who do you got coming in?
My buddy Matt Lambert. He's a Kiwi chef. We're flying him in. He had a Michelin star for 5 years in New York. At the time, he was the fastest ever Michelin star. He got it in like 3 months, which is badass. Then we've got Chef Scott Gurley from Osteria Il Muro up in Denton. He's up for James Beard Award for Best Chef Texas this year. We've got the chef from Fulton, from Margot in Denver. They got a Michelin star. And then we've got Chef Rishi Kumar is coming in from Chicago.
Shout out to Rishi.
Yeah.
Good friend too.
Good. I haven't worked with him yet. When I get him on the phone, I'm like, this guy's going to be fun.
Tell him while he's here, he needs to jump on the podcast.
Yeah.
I need to get him to Texas.
You should come up for the dinner.
Yeah, I should. Actually, yeah, I should. Rishi's great.
It's in November, so you're plenty
super
of time.
talented. His food's amazing.
It looks delicious.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun because the plan is, what they do is it's like 8-course tasting, and they do half, And then I'm in charge with my team of coming up with the other half, but in their style.
Ooh.
So, you know, again, Mexican, Indian, that's going to be the last one. It's going to be a real sort of head scratcher. But then Margot's very Denver, but French, because he worked at Danielle for a while. Matt Lambert's a Kiwi with lots of French technique. And then Scott's, you know, beautiful Italian, rustic looking.
I love that. I want to go to, I'm going to do my best to get to one.
Yeah, you got to come.
Yeah, awesome, brother.
That'd be fun.
Good seeing you.
Thank you very much. This has been fun.
All right, that's the show. If you liked it, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. If you want more Chefs PSA, go to chefspsa.com. Get yourself some books, get yourself some merch, including Culinary Leadership Fundamentals and the Line Cook Survival Manual. If you want early access to episodes, you can get them on Spotify and Substack by becoming a paid member. The link is in the notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
Yo, it's Andre in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.